Welcome to Millionaire Month. I might be lazy, but I'm all about giving you value. For the whole of this month, I'll be putting out summaries of popular business books. Some have helped me, while others I only read after making my first million. Hit subscribe for a new video every weekday. Who works weekends anyway? Today, we're summarizing 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel. He's sort of a lazy millionaire too, except that he's a billionaire, and he's not at all lazy. He's a Silicon Valley hotshot and investor, founder of PayPal and business partner of Elon Musk, and he knows firsthand about building multi-billion-dollar businesses that change the world we live in. We're going to break 0 to 1 down into 3 sections. What is a 0 to 1 business? Thinking of 0 to 1 business ideas, and growing a 0 to 1 business. The fundamental idea behind 0 to 1 is that the most valuable companies are innovators with little to no competition. Let's break this down. You can think about all businesses as either being creators or copycats. Creators are making something new, going from 0 to 1. And copycats make incremental improvements on something that already exists, going from version 1 to version N. Later, I'll reveal whether my first business was pure innovation, 0 to 1, or an incremental improvement to something that already exists. You'll get to see how the ideas we're discussing played out in my life. Now, let's look at a creator business. Something innovative that creates a huge amount of value, like creating the first wheel. The wheel made it easy to move heavy things with less effort. If you're out with your tribe and you took down a big old woolly mammoth, even rudimentary log wheels could be life-changing. The other kind of business, copycats, take something that already exists and they make small adjustments to differentiate themselves from the competition. These businesses need to convince customers that they offer the best version of the product if they want to be successful. So a copycat business might be offering the wheel at the cheapest price or the highest durability. However, even though creating the wheel is a valuable invention, it's not actually a valuable business. And this is because it's too easy for a copycat to come along and make a wheel as well. In short, competition is for losers. Winning companies avoid competition. The most valuable businesses in the world not only create value, but they are also able to successfully capture the value that they create. In other words, they are monopoly businesses with no competition. Let's illustrate this with a real-world example. US airlines create a huge amount of value for customers, generating billions of dollars in revenue every year, but they also face heavy competition. On an average ticket price of $178, airlines made an average of only 37 cents. Compare this to Google, which creates far less value than airlines, but it captures far more of it. In 2012, Google made $50 billion in revenue, compared to a whopping $160 billion for airlines. But with Google, a massive 21% of their revenues were retained as profit. And this is why Google is worth over 3 times as much as every single US airline combined. Google is a great example of a 0 to 1 business. It creates a huge amount of value for people searching for things online. And because its search technology is so much better than anybody else, it's very hard for anybody to compete with Google. In fact, most valuable companies earn a monopoly in some way. Facebook has earned its monopoly through network effects, because everybody wants to use the social network that their friends are using. Amazon has delivery infrastructure and economies of scale that make it extremely difficult for new businesses to compete with them on price or delivery speed. And Microsoft grew to be one of the world's most valuable companies with a monopoly on software. Because if you send a colleague an Excel spreadsheet, they need to own Excel to open it. And this makes it very hard for other companies to compete. We can actually summarize what a 0 to 1 business is with just 2 words. How's this for laziness? A 0 to 1 business is an innovative monopoly. But how do you start one? A good place to begin is by asking yourself this question. What important truth do very few people agree with you on? This is known as a contrarian truth. And if you can come up with a business based on one of these ideas, most people will think you're crazy and dismiss your ideas, and this gives you long enough to build a market-dominating lead. A good example of this is Airbnb, who thought that people were willing to stay in strangers' homes. Kickstarter, they knew that people would pay for products before they even existed. And Tinder thought that online dating should be a fun experience for the masses, and not a creepy, dark corner of the internet. In fact, most great companies are pioneers that are founded on a contrarian truth. So to build a hyper-successful startup, you must go against conventional wisdom rather than copy an existing idea. However, that's easier said than done, especially because your timing also needs to be right. In the late 2000s, there was something called the green tech revolution, based on the contrarian truth that humanity will move from using fossil fuels for energy to using renewable resources like solar. A decade later, solar panel technology is still not where it needs to be. So your business must not only be founded on a contrarian truth, it must be founded on a contrarian truth whose time has come. A thought experiment you can use is to ask yourself, what valuable company is nobody building? Think about it for a minute. It's actually much harder to answer than you'd initially expect. So far, you know that a 0-to-1 business is an innovative monopoly. And the way to think of an idea is to find a contrarian truth. But how do you actually grow your massive, world-changing business? Counterintuitively, you need to start really small. It's better to control all of a small market than some of a big one. A great example of this is Amazon. Looking at Amazon today, you see a global e-commerce giant, a place on the internet you can go to buy almost anything, and a company that's making billions of dollars. It's easy to forget that Amazon started really small, by selling books, and it wasn't even the first online bookseller. However, Amazon was the best online bookseller, and had Jeff Bezos started his everything store on day one, he likely would have failed. Realizing that books are all roughly the same size and most stores have a limited selection, Amazon marketed itself as an online shop with every book, cutting costs on shipping by using standardized parcels. If you want something and it's in print, then Amazon will have it. As the company grew, it branched out from books. Now you can get almost anything from this online shop, and Amazon's huge network and delivery infrastructure means it's hard for any new business to compete. To summarize, if you're thinking, I want 1% of $1 billion market, then that's probably a red flag. You should be thinking, I'm going to get 90% of this very small market, and here's my plan to do it. Plans, however, are only as important as the people executing them. A large part of 0-to-1 discusses the importance of people. When thinking about building a team, you can throw out your recruiter's playbook. It'll tell you things like offer employees perks. But do you really want to hire someone that's only loyal to you because you're offering them a table tennis table and pizza on Fridays? It's far more important to build a team of people who genuinely like each other and are jointly working towards a shared mission. You want dedicated people, but you don't want to go as far as creating a cult. Thiel calls this group of people a mafia, and the PayPal mafia are well known in Silicon Valley as the founders of PayPal and subsequent creators of billion-dollar businesses such as LinkedIn, Tesla, and YouTube. Quick aside, I'll reveal a business idea you can use to make your first $1,000 when we get to 1,000 subscribers. In this summary, we've covered what a 0-to-1 business is, how to think of 0-to-1 business ideas, and how to execute on your idea. When I create these summaries, I can't always fit in all the details, and this is especially true for 0-to-1. It's one of the most thoughtful and insightful business books I've read, and I'd highly encourage any entrepreneur to read the entire thing. One detail that I found particularly interesting, that we didn't cover, is how monopolies can actually be good for society. This is completely the opposite to how you might think about the world after playing the Monopoly board game, where one person wins and everyone else refuses to talk to you ever again. I've left links in the description to the book and audiobook. If you follow my links, it really helps the channel out. Finally, at the start of this video, I promised to tell you whether my first business was a 0-to-1 idea, or whether I just made an incremental improvement on something that already exists. In my case, it was an incremental improvement. And in fact, it's much less risky to make $1 million this way, but it's almost impossible to create a world-changing billion-dollar company, because normally you have to take a big risk and go against conventional wisdom to do so. For example, there are thousands of businesses that sell their products on Amazon, and many of those founders will be millionaires. But there is only one Amazon, and only one Jeff Bezos. I hope you've enjoyed this summary, and I'll catch you in the next video.